What is up, guys? Welcome back to CageChat MMA and welcome back to the Cage Warriors 119 preview. Of course, it is the final stanza and chapter of the trilogy strikes back from Cage Warriors. A fantastic 3 nights back to back to back of fights. And obviously, last night we saw Matthias Frederick defend his middleweight title for the first time, of course, get a fantastic KO win. And tonight we have got two title fights, on the card tonight, and of course it is the vacant featherweight and the vacant lightweight championships that are both being contested in tonight's main and co-main event. And now, starting off with the main event, of course, Morgan Charriere versus Perry Goodwin. Of course, these two are fighting for that vacant title, of course, and we topped the weekend with a fantastic bout. These two featherweights that are going to go at it and give it everything to that aren't afraid to back down. And obviously, you would have seen all the promotion authority in the Cage Warriors broadcasted over the last 2 nights as well. And you see, Goodwin almost feeling very fortunate in the position he's in terms of saying that kids or people from his area don't get title shots like this. And obviously, Morgan Charriere obviously getting that big push and pull from his native France and all the fans he brings over from France as well. It's a shame that these two don't have fans in the audience, having a Geordie fan base and a French fan base. Of course, would have been phenomenal in that York Hall arena, or probably in the Wembley arena. It would have been SSE Arena had fans tonight, maybe. But yes, obviously, Charriere comes in on a 2-fight win streak, having beat Lewis Monarch and Dean Truman, of course, before that he lost to Saran Buck. But he's got some fantastic wins on his record, and obviously comes in with a resume and a record of 15-7-1. So a lot of experience for him as well. Only 25 years of age to already have 23 fights on your record at 25 is pretty scary. Of course, he's 5'7", and we'll have a quick look at, of course, the tailored tape as well. Obviously, we mentioned there 15-7-1, 10-6 for Goodwin, 5'7" versus 5'10", so a bit of a height differential there, and of course 3 years in age. So it's an interesting one. That experience is hard to look past 15-7-1. The record, you don't get too many at that age having a record like that, and so many losses as well. He would have learned a lot from those losses, almost more than you can say from the 15 wins that he's had. But it's going to be a cracking bout, and obviously we've seen a 5-round gritty title performance in terms of Jake Hadley, and obviously last night we saw Matthias Frederick, put on a show-stealing performance with that knockout win that he pulled off last night. And again, he could be booking himself into the UFC maybe. He is 37 years of age. I don't know if that affects him too much based on his resume, his performance last night. It shouldn't affect him too much. Maybe 37, maybe the UFC look at him and go, maybe we wanted a bit of younger talent, with all due respect to him. But again, it'd be nice to see him book his place in the UFC 100%. And after a performance like that last night, he certainly deserves a shot at least. But yes, Perry Goodwin, of course, we mentioned that 28 years of age, coming in as the Predator, of course, and he's coming off 2 wins as well. Steve Aimable and Samir Alakozai, with his last 2 wins, both going to the decision in March and October of last year. Before that, he lost to Reece McKee, of course, and then beat Alexander Jacobson before that, after returning off a 2-fight loss spell for him there. But Steve Aimable performed last night, of course, getting a good win over Tom Means in the first round. So again, getting a win over Steve Aimable is it shows the talent levels of Perry Andre Goodwin, and shows why he's fighting for the title tonight. That featherweight division is pretty stacked at Cage Warriors now, as is the lightweight division. It's a shame that there's no rankings to go off and do a bit of matchmaking from, especially someone coming almost newer to your organization. It's hard to pinpoint. You see people with their most recent performances, and maybe you place them higher up the pecking order or lower down the pecking order, depending on what your first experience with them was. So it'd be nice to have a Cage Warriors rankings, official rankings at least. I know my good friend Gary has done some other MMA prospects as well, which is fantastic. It'd be nice if all organizations had some official rankings somewhere. But yes, I think I'm going to have to go with the Frenchman there, Morgan Charriere. I think he's going to get it done. The experience is almost impossible to look over, and I think the last Pirate is going to be taking the belt back to France with him tonight. And I think we're in for a good chat. I don't think this one goes to the distance. I think we're more likely to see the lightweight bout go the distance rather than this one. I think these two are going to come out and give us a huge war in the finale tonight of Cage Warriors, the Trilogy Strikes Back. But we do go back, of course. Now we move on to Jack Grant against, I think it's Agy Sardari, who was signed. Of course, he's making his Cage Warriors debut tonight in a vacant title bout, which, shows the talent level that he is. And obviously, Jack Grant is coming off a one-fight win streak. I was going to say a three-fight win streak, but two of those were in grappling. So, yeah, still a three-fight win streak, I suppose, but one in MMA. Obviously, coming off that loss to Jai Herbert, is now in the UFC. So, again, still someone, there's no harm in losing to Jai Herbert, knowing what he's doing. And he's just had an announcement against Jack Close as well. So he'll be returning to the cage very soon after what was an unsuccessful UFC debut, albeit a very entertaining one, you could say. But yes, before that, he was on a huge 6-fight win streak, of course, making his way up in the professional rankings. And obviously, he stands at 16-5, again, 21 fights at the age of 28. Is a phenomenal feat, and he's obviously kept himself very active from making his debut back in 2012. Of course, that's what 3 fights a year. Well, bet on 3 fights a year almost. But yes, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he brings tonight. Obviously, 28 years of age. We'll have a quick look at their record as well. The tape, sorry, as well. 16-5 against 12-2, 6-1 versus 5-11, and only 1 year in between the age gap, of course. And obviously, Sardari making his debut tonight, 12-2. We mentioned there, he's on a fantastic win streak, 6-fight win streak in a row, and obviously he's been fighting across the organization. So making this Cage Warriors debut tonight in a title shot, could it be too much? I'm not too sure. Is it more? You could perhaps see people saying that this is a favorable matchup for Jack Grant to get him that title win, but I think that would be disingenuous and disrespectful to Jack Grant to say that he's getting an easy fight into Sardari, who's coming in on such a heavy win record and win streak. It's hard and almost impossible to look over that and say he's just getting that fight because they want Jack Grant to win the title. I think this one might go to. Actually, I'm going to say this one does go the distance. I think we're going to see 25 minutes of action here, and it could get a little bit gritty here and there. But maybe not quite Luke Shanks, Jake Hadley, but maybe we'll see a back and forth fight almost like we did, or we were starting to see last night before Matthias Frederick got that KO win in the 3rd round. I believe it was a 4th round at least. So yes, we'll move on, of course, and tonight is the night of the Irish invasion. 2 lads full of charisma, full of heart, and winning their nation over, and winning the fans of Cage Warriors and MMA over. Obviously, Paul Hughes and Ian Garry both fighting tonight against the Brits. This is an age-old rivalry of Ireland versus England here, and obviously these two are fighting. Paul Hughes in that featherweight division, 6-0 now, still undefeated, and we're looking to keep that undefeated record tonight against Jordan Vucenic. And it's going to be interesting. He looked great against Aidan Stephen back at Cage Warriors 116, and I saw him fight on Cage Warriors 112 with that beautiful head kick knockout of Yuri Panada, which was a scary one to say the least. It's one of those ones that wasn't quite expecting to get him out in round 2, but again, he looked phenomenal, and he's bringing over. Again, I wish there was an Irish crowd, or a crowd, say you'd have an Irish trident, a Geordie trident, and of course the French trident for Charriere. But the Irish always bring it, and I think these two are, well, certainly the next two coming out of Ireland. Obviously, you've got Conor McGregor, maybe second gen. Obviously, he's probably the most known, but he's probably second gen. Obviously, James Gallagher and that sort of club, maybe 3rd gen, but these are certainly 4th generation. And boy, these are spearheading their way to the top. And I think, the featherweight division, and Paul Hughes is going to want a title shot within the next 12 months. I think if he gets a win tonight, he certainly puts himself in there. Maybe he's 1 or 2 fights away, and we see him fight for the title late next year, definitely the first half of 2022. But if he puts on an impressive performance here, he knows how to talk as well. He might just be able to win the fans over, and of course Graham Boylan over to grant him that title shot. But he's certainly a fun one to watch. Jordan Vucenic, of course, coming in with a record of 6-1, of course, as well. So, he has suffered that taste of defeat, and he'll be wanting to do the same and give Paul Hughes his taste of defeat. But I don't know if that happens. His last decision, also at Cage Warriors 116, was that split decision over Steve Amable. and he's had a decent decent run. He's on a 4-fight win streak. Had a very successful 2019. Obviously, 2020 with COVID and everything hasn't gone the way everyone's wanted in terms of staying active, building on your streaks, building momentum. But a win tonight, against someone who's as highly touted as Paul Hughes, someone who brings in a big name and a big sort of following. If Jordan Vucenic gets the win tonight, then boy, it could set him up that next level if he goes to 7-1, hands Hughes' first defeat, and again, one of these two could be fighting maybe the winner tonight of the featherweight title match. I do think Paul Hughes gets it done, though. I think he's a very talented fighter, and I think, not luck of the Irish, so to speak, but I think, sometimes you just see things happen and you see people fighting, you just think they're going to be big in 5-6 years. He's going to be on a UFC caliber card, and maybe I do want to make too many comparisons, but he might be on that path similar to Conor McGregor, where he goes for the featherweight title, lightweight title, and then bounces off to the UFC perhaps. But we move on to Ian Garry, obviously against Lauren Tracy. Again, Irish versus English, England as well. And again, I have to back the Irishman here. I know it's going against my countryman there and Lawrence Terry, but again, undefeated at 4-0. Another one of those that brings in a fantastic crowd, a fantastic audience. And I saw the footage that Cage Warriors put out today on their socials, those two bantering each other about who's the biggest prospect coming out of Ireland at the moment. I think they're both building each other up nicely, and they're going back and forth and keep winning. And it's going to be phenomenal to see how they perform tonight, and interesting to see if they both get a win tonight. And I think if they do, both of them are looking at title opportunities next year. Obviously, that welterweight division that Ian Garry is in still doesn't have a champion yet, still vacant, and there's probably going to be a title up for grabs in March, April, and May, depending on when they want to get there. They're sort of their road for 2021 Cage Warriors, and when they want to plan their events out, if it's going to be a trilogy sort of series, or if we're going to go back to the normal one, maybe 2 per month that Cage Warriors normally do. But again, both of them fantastic performers. We'll have a quick look at Lawrence Tracy, of course, 5-4. Not, you're looking at the resume thinking, not to be too disrespectful, but he lost 4 out of 9 fights. But again, he's fought the top caliber, Mason Jones, who's just signed to the UFC, of course, but he does go on a win-loss sort of tangent, and that's how his career has panned out. He's coming off the back of the win. So the trajectory of his career is probably a loss tonight, and you're thinking, he's still quite young, and if he can start getting a streak going together, then maybe, who knows, once you're 7-4, 8-4, then you're maybe looking for a title shot. But I do think this one for Ian Garry, it's favourable for him, and the statistics and the trajectory that Lawrence Tracy's sort of career and results go in. You're looking at an Ian Garry win tonight, and I think the Irishmen get it done tonight. Both of them get it done tonight, and we see them probably fight for the title 2021. I don't think we see them both at the same time fight for the title on the same night, so to speak. But I do think we see one at the start of the year, maybe, and then maybe one towards the back end of the year, if not the start of 2022. Definitely, I think these two are very talented people. I think Graham Boylan, especially, and Cage Warriors will want to get him, maybe not promoted too fast, but breed him in, get him some notoriety, and then they step into the UFC at 7, 8, 9, 9-0, perhaps, if they get that far. But these two are coming, and these two are bringing a lot of fans with them, and I think Dana White's going to be licking his lips at the prospect that is Paul Hughes and Ian Garry tonight. Obviously, in the lightweight division, of course, before those two step into the cage, you got Northern Ireland's Joe McColgan, of course, and Kieran Lister. I think they're kicking off the main card. Obviously, Joe McColgan 6-3-1. His last loss was to Mason Jones for that I believe it was a vacant lightweight title at the time. Pardon me if I've misspoken there, but Mason Jones obviously, was on his campaign to become champ, and now signed to the UFC. You can see how different that could have been. It could have been Joe McColgan with a win against Mason Jones at Cage Warriors 1-3. Could have thought Adam Proctor, of course, for the vacant welterweight title that Ross Houston departed with. But it is a tough one. He's up against Kieran Lister here, who again 7-0-1, so he's undefeated. A win for him could put him in a very good spot. He looked great in that decision win against Tom Means back at Cage Warriors 1-6 from the last trilogy, and he's up against Joe McColgan, who's not fought since the start of lockdown. Cage Warriors 1 and 3, of course. But you're probably expecting whoever wins tonight probably is the next in line for the lightweight title opportunity. I'm sure Joe McColgan wants it back. Obviously, it's on the line tonight with Jack Grant and Agy Sardari. So you'd imagine, these two are fighting prior to that. And I'd imagine that, whoever wins this one is calling out the champion by the end of tonight. But yes, I think that's a good place to leave it there, guys. I know the card has started. And of course, 6:30 starting earlier today. And obviously, we will be back for the UFC 256 preview later on about 10:30, I believe, as well. So make sure to hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Make sure to hit like and follow if you're watching on Facebook. And we'll see you guys on the next video.